Hello children. So welcome to AIMS India's online classes. Today from mathematics subject, elements of geometry topic we are going to discuss. So yesterday from in our yesterday's class from Euclid's elements from book 1. So whatever 23 definitions he has proposed regarding the definitions we have learned. So starting with his definitions, Euclid also assumed certain properties which were not to be proved, means no need to prove them. He proposed certain properties or he assumed certain properties which were not to be proved. So they are called as axioms or common notions. Common notions, sometimes used with the meaning postulates. Common notions or axioms. So no need to prove them, just they are assumptions. So these assumptions are actually obvious universal truths, like sun rises in the east. It's always a truth. It's a universal truth. It's a universal truth. No need to prove it again. Like that, these axioms also obvious universal truths. He divided them into two types. One is postulates, another one is common notions or axioms. Axioms. So he used the term postulate for the assumptions that were specific to geometry. If the universal truths, if they were related to geometry, then he named them as postulates. He named them as postulates, means universal truths particularly relating to the geometry topic. So common notions, often called axioms, on the other hand, were assumptions used throughout mathematics and not specially linked to geometry. So axioms means they are the universal truths. Axioms means they are the universal truth related to entire math topics, not only but not particular about geometry. But whereas postulates, postulates, postulates means universal truths particularly dealing about geometry, particularly dealing about geometry. Okay, so Euclid proposed certain properties or assumed certain properties. There is no need to prove them. So they are considered as universal truths. If they are related, if they are related only to geometry, he named them as postulates. If they are related to any mathematical topic along with geometry, he named them as axioms or common notions. In today's video, we are going to learn about these axioms and postulates. So here axioms and postulates are nothing but universal truths. Universal truths. Suppose 2 plus 3 equal to 5. It's always true. It's always true. No need to prove it again. So common notions are axioms. Common notions are axioms. So let's see the first axiom. Things which equal the same thing are also equal to one another. So try to understand the statement carefully, children. Things which equal the same thing also equal to one another. Note that this common notion can be applied to plane figures only. Plane figures only. Suppose if A equals to B and B equals to C, if A equals to B and B equals to C, means A is a thing which is equal to B, C is a thing which is equal to B. A and C are equal to the same thing. A and C are equal to the same thing. So then we can assume A equal to C. No need to prove it again. No need to prove it again. Because A is equal to B, B is equal to C, as B is same thing. So then these two different things also, as they are related to the same thing, these two different things also can be equal. This is the meaning of first axiom, Euclid's first axiom. If A equals to B, B equals to C, then A equals to C. For that, no need of any proof. Directly, we can write A equal to C. A equal to C. That is first axiom. Next, second axiom. If equals are added to equals, then the wholes are equal. Then the wholes are equal. Note that magnitude of only same kind can be added. Means same kind of values can be added. So if equals are added to equals, then wholes are equal. What does it mean, children? If A equals to B, C equals to D. If A equals to B, C equals to D. If equals are added, means A plus C, B plus D. If equals, this is one equality, this is second equality. If we add equals, left hand side we are getting A plus C, right hand side we are getting B plus D. These two also equal. If equals are added, then A plus C is called as a whole, B plus D is called as a whole. Then wholes are also equal because we are adding the equals. If this is 1, if this is 2, from 1 and 2, A plus C equals to B plus D we can write. This is the meaning of second axiom. Second axiom. Next, third. If equals are subtracted from equals, then the remainders are equal. Then the remainders are equal. If A equals to B, C equals to D. If equals are subtracted, A minus C, B minus D. Here we are subtracting the equals. So this is the remainder 1, this is remainder 2. So from 1 and 2, A minus C equals to B minus D we can write. If equals are subtracted, then remainders are equal. Remainders are equal. So that is third axiom. Third axiom. So next, fourth one. Things which coincide with one another equal to one another. Things which coincide with one another equal to one another. Equal to one another. Suppose, so I am starting from this point A. So I went up to B, then came back to A. Came back to A, or came back to C. But the C point, as I am coming back to A, this C point is coinciding with A. So we can write A equal to C. A equal to the point A and C are same. Means things which coincide with one another are equal to one another. Why A and C are equal here? Because they are coinciding with one another. So that's why they are equal. That's why they are equal. Next. Fifth axiom, children. The whole is greater than the part. The whole is greater than the part. If I am having a whole circle, if I cut 1 by 4th of circle, 1 by 4th of circle always less than whole part, or whole part always greater than 1 by 4th, always greater than 1 by 4th. So the whole is always greater than the part, than its part. That is fifth axiom, children. Next, sixth one. Things which are double of the same things are equal to one another. Things which are double of same things are equal to one another. Suppose A equal to, A is a thing which is double of another thing, 2B. or C equals to double of another thing, but same thing. Two things are double of same things. A equals to 2B, C equal to 2B. So then what we can write from 1 and 2? A equal to C we can write. As they are equal to double of same thing, these two things also will become equal. A equal to C we can write. Or if they are triple of same thing, then also A equal to C we can write. That is sixth postulate. Next, seventh. Things which are halves of the same things are equal to one another. Things which are halves of the same thing are equal to one another. So things which are half of the same thing, A equal to half B, C equal to half B, means both are half of the same thing. So then also we can write A equal to C. A equal to C. So in this way, Euclid has assumed some properties which are called common notions or axioms. No need to prove them true. They are just assumptions. They can be applicable for the entire mathematics. So like this, he proposed 7 axioms. 7 axioms. Okay, children. So next. So he proposed some postulates also. So what are postulates, children? Postulates means they are also statements. No need to prove them true, but they are purely related to geometry. Postulates are purely related to geometry. They are the universal truths or self-proven statements. They are self-proven, means they are proved by themselves. Self-proven statements relating to geometry, they are called as postulates. So Euclid has proposed 5 postulates. 5 postulates. So in that, first postulate, a straight line may be drawn from any one point to any other point. The first postulate says that for a given any 2 points such as A and B, there is a unique line AB whose endpoints are A and B. Means, so if we have a point A, if we have a point B, joining that A and B, we can draw only one unique line, unique straight line. We can draw only one unique straight line whose endpoints are A and B. Whose endpoints are A and B. Here they are mentioning unique line. We cannot draw infinite number of lines. Through one point, through A point, we can draw infinite number of lines through one point. Through B point, we can draw infinite number of lines. But joining A and B, we can draw only one line. So that's why we are telling unique line. We can draw only unique line between A and B, whose endpoints are A and B. That is postulate 1. So next, postulate 2. A terminated line can be produced indefinitely. Euclid's terminated line is now called line segment. So according to the present day terms, the second postulate say that a line segment can be extended on either side to form a line. So actually, Euclid, suppose if you have AB, A, point B, AB of length 5 centimeter. This is AB line segment. At present days, we are calling it as a line segment, but Euclid called it as a terminated line. Why means its length is fixed. Its length is fixed and its endpoints are fixed. That's why he called it as a terminated line. But now we are calling it as a line segment. He told that terminated line can be produced indefinitely on this side, on right side, and on left side, which is called as a line. which is called as a line. So according to him, terminated line can be extended indefinitely on both sides of endpoints to form a line. That is postulate 2. Next one, third postulate. A circle can be drawn with any center and radius. A circle can be drawn with any center, any radius. If I take center like this, center here, if I take this radius, with this radius, we can draw a circle. If I take center here, if I reduce radius, with this radius, we can draw one more circle. If we reduce radius, we can draw one more circle. Like that, with any center, with any radius, we can draw a circle. Next, postulate 4. All right angles equal to one another. Suppose in the circle, this is a diameter, this is radius, and this is perpendicular. In the rectangle, this is a right angle, or in the triangle, this is a right angle. Means a right angle, whether it may be present in the interior part of circle, or in the interior part of rectangle, or in the interior part of triangle, no matter wherever it is. But if it is a right angle, all right angles are equal to one another. If it is 1, if it is 2, if it is 3, because all are right angles, angle 1 equals to angle 2 equals to angle 3, 3 of them indirectly equals to 90 degrees. Like that. All right angles are equal. Next, postulate 5. If a straight line falling on two straight lines makes the interior angles on the same side of it taken together less than 2 right angles, then these two straight lines, if produced indefinitely, meet on that side on which sum of the angles is less than 2 right angles. For example, in the following figure, the line PQ is falling on AB line and CD line such that sum of interior angles 1 and 2 on the same side is less than 180 degrees on the left side of PQ. So therefore, this AB and CD will eventually intersect on the left side of PQ. Means if we extend them, they will intersect on the left side of PQ. So if we have a line AB here, we have a line CD here, one more line PQ we have drawn. After drawing this line PQ, we got two angles here, angle 1 and angle 2. If the sum of angle 1 and 2 is less than 2 right angles, means 2 into 90 degrees, means angle 1 plus angle 2 is less than 180 degrees. So then, as we have taken interior angles on the left side of PQ, so this AB, if it is extended leftwards, CD, if it is extended leftwards, there is a chance of intersection of this AB line and CD line because angle 1 and 2 sum is less than 180. Or if the sum is 180, if these two are the lines, and this is the PQ line, if the sum of interiors angle 1 plus angle 2 equals to 180 degrees, if it is equal to 180 degrees, they will never meet. Means these two lines are parallel. To each other. Like that we can tell. Like that we can tell. So nowadays, these postulates and axioms are the terms that are used interchangeably and in the same sense. Now there is no difference, children. A postulate and axiom we are using with the same meaning. So, okay, children. Next, this equivalent version of Euclid's fifth postulate. So, Euclid's fifth postulate, it's a very significant postulate, very important postulate in the history of mathematics. There are several equivalent versions of this postulates. So, one of them is Playfair's axiom. So, the modified version of this fifth postulate, its name is Playfair's axiom, given by Scottish mathematician John Playfair in the year 1729. As stated below, what he has told: for every line L and for every point P not lying on L, there exists a unique line M passing through P and parallel to line L. Parallel to line L. From figure, you can see that all the lines passing through the point P, only line M is parallel to L. Means what he is telling is, so if we have a line L, if we have a point P which is not on L, which is not lying on L, there exists only one line. There exists only one unique line passing through P and parallel to L. Remaining all other lines passing through P, are not parallel to L. So there exists only one unique line passing through P and parallel to L. Okay. Okay. So two distinct lines, two distinct intersecting lines cannot be parallel to the same line. Means if like M, if we have one more line passing through P whose name is N, then this M and N, as they are intersecting at P, we can call them as distinct intersecting lines. Both M parallel to L and N parallel to L does not happen. Why? Means this M and N are two distinct intersecting lines. Out of two, only one, either M is parallel to L or N is parallel to L. Any one can happen, but both cannot be parallel to the same line as they are intersecting. Okay, that is the equivalent version of Euclid's fifth postulate. It is called as Playfair's axiom, named on behalf of John Playfair. Next one. So, consistent system of axioms. So, a system of axioms is called consistent if it is impossible to deduce from these axioms a statement that contradicts any axiom or previously proved statement. So if you are if it is impossible to deduce a statement to deduce a statement from these axioms which contradicts, which opposes any axiom or previously proved statement. It is highly impossible. So that's why these axioms, they are called consistent. This system of axioms, why they are called consistent means we cannot tell any statement which contradicts that they are wrong. Which contradicts means which opposes the axioms. There is no such statement, or it is impossible to deduce such statement. So that's why the system of axioms is called consistent. Next, propositions or theorems. Propositions or theorems. Propositions or theorems. So after Euclid stated his postulates and axioms, he used them to prove other results. With the help of postulates and axioms, he proved other results also. Then using these results, he proved some more results by applying deductive reasoning. The statements that were proved are called propositions or theorems. Propositions or theorems. So Euclid deduced 465 propositions in a logical chain using his axioms, postulates, definitions, and theorems proved earlier in the chain. So now we prove a theorem which is frequently used in different results. So actually, Euclid, what he has done means, after proposing these postulates and axioms, with the help of these, he proved some results. And with the help of results, he proved some more results by applying deductive reasoning. So these statements that were proved means they have a particular logical proof. Axiom means no need of proof. They are truths, universal truths. But these results are proved and they have a logical proof. And these statements them as propositions or theorems. Propositions or theorems, which can be proved by others. So in such way, he proposed 465 propositions in a logical chain using axioms, postulates, definitions, and theorems proved earlier in the same chain. So theorem means two distinct lines cannot have more than one point in common. Two distinct lines can have only one point in common, cannot have 2 points in common. It's a theorem which can be proved by using logic or by using some techniques. So it is called as a theorem. It is called as a theorem. So for the theorem, let's see the proof of the theorem. So for the time being, let us suppose that two lines intersect in two distinct points, say P and Q. So you have two lines passing through two distinct points P and Q. But this assumption clashes with the axiom that only one line can pass through two distinct points. So our assumption that we started with is wrong. So therefore, two distinct lines cannot have more than one point in common. Suppose, so now what is the theorem now? Two distinct lines cannot have more than one point in common. This is the theorem to be proved. So suppose two different lines, if they cut at two distinct points, say P and Q. Suppose two distinct lines cut at two different points P and Q. But according to axioms, what we have learned, through different points we can draw only one line. We can never draw two lines with two different points. So two lines cutting at 2 points, whatever our assumption we have made, it is wrong, because it is not mentioned in the axioms. So they never cut at 2 points. So what is right? They intersect only at 1 point. So that is right. So that is called contradiction method. Means first we will assume opposite to the proof, then we will come to the final conclusion. Like that, we can have proof for theorems. So, non-Euclidean geometry. Non-Euclidean geometry. So, all the attempts to prove Euclid's fifth postulate using first four postulates failed actually. But though we were not able to prove fifth postulate with the help of fourth postulate, but it led to the discovery of several other geometries proposed by other mathematicians called non-Euclidean geometries. Non-Euclidean geometries. So, Euclidean geometry is valid only for plane figures. Only for plane figures. But for curved surfaces, it fails. So, creation of non-Euclidean geometry is considered as a landmark in the history of thought, because until then, everybody was believed that Euclid's was the only geometry, and whole geometry in the world belongs to Euclidean geometry. Like that, people used to believe. But this non-Euclidean geometry has done tremendous discoveries in the field of geometry and mathematics. So, because Euclidean geometry was applicable only for plane figures, not for curved surfaces, So, along with Euclidean geometry, nowadays we are learning non-Euclidean geometry also. But the Euclidean geometry gave the basis for non-Euclidean geometry. Okay, children, that's all for today. So please visit our website, children, www.aimstoday.in, for other information regarding online classes, quizzes, live worksheets, activities, English classes, coding classes. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe our channel and press the bell icon for receiving latest updates. Thank you, children. Have a good day.